So lived experience for us is our experiences, our own experiences that we've been through in life that we can pass on and share that can make something better in the future for others. So that's what it means for me, do you know what I mean, in that sense. But yeah, my own lived experiences.
Okay.
All the stuff that I do, in my heart of hearts, I'm more to the point of, if somebody looks at me and thinks, well, if he can do it, I can do it, and they did it, do you know what I mean? I'd be happy. Anybody, any more than that, I'd be over the moon, do you know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's just a big, that is a massive thing in me, do you know what I mean? For someone else to hopefully look and learn from what I do.
So, I mean, what's the experience that you guys have had with lived experience with the services that you've had to access?
I'd say that since getting involved with Opportunity Nottingham and starting to understand about lived experience and SMD, severe disadvantage, which in a way I think I would now identify myself as, it's something that it's learned really. So I wouldn't have had that description, or I wouldn't have ID'd like that.
Well, it's difficult with labels, isn't it? Because
stigma, innit?
Yeah.
Stigmatised, aren't you, in a way? It's not nice feeling that, especially when you've been a homeless person as well, and you've had people look down at you. So it's hard to kind of come back from that, because when you're homeless, you get to a certain point in your own mind that you're that certain person. Do you know what I mean? And so when people add to that, it makes you feel so it's dead hard to come back from that. Do you know what I'm saying? It's very hard actually to come back from that. So even when you do get to a certain point in your life, you still always got them kind of feelings there. You still think you're not as, do you know what I mean? But you are actually, you know what I'm saying? But it's stigmatising. It's just, it just makes you feel, and it can keep you in that place that you once was, sort of thing as well.
do you think now that you've kind of identified with that, do you feel like you've owned it in a way?
Owned it. More so, yeah, I guess, as the time's gone on.
Yeah.
So, because it was a new thing, I'd never even heard of it before.
Yeah.
But, and like Lee said about the lived experience, I hope that can benefit somebody else. But again, it's experiential learning, isn't it? It's stuff that we individuals have gone through. I don't know, quite, I guess people might still see it as a moral thing in many ways, you know what I mean? So there's a judgment there, but I think since getting the awareness and then recognising this condition, or it's a label in a way, but
It's a set of circumstances, shall we say?
yeah, I guess it's through, like you say, it's through lived experience, isn't it? So
I think a lived experience, in my personal view, is being able to share and relate to situations that have evolved and what haven't, being able to talk about those things and work through those situations.
Right, I got out of prison last September. They put me out on the street with £11 and nowhere to live, because as Katie knows, my missus died and I had nowhere to go to. And if it wasn't for that number I had in my, I'm going to cry in a minute.
No,
And if it wasn't for that number that I had in my diary, I would be sleeping on that bacon. And I know how, never understand how people get
To that.
to that.
Yeah. People let you get to that point, sort of thing. Yeah.
So, I suppose the big question is, co-production is when lived experience is kind of involved in making services. How important do you think that is?
Well, co-production is massive, mate. Because it's obviously we set foundations and we build on them through co-production. Do you know what I'm saying? So, with for me, there was nothing ever about until Opportunity Nottingham come about. There was none of that researching stuff and all that sort of stuff. And then, as a matter of fact, when good things did used to come about, the funding would stop and that'd be the end of it. So it'd be back to square one again anyway. Whereas with Hot Knots, they've done all the research for it, and now with Changing Futures coming about, Changing Futures is only basically co-producing from what Hot Knots has started. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, I think co-production is massive. It's a very key point in all of this. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, building on from what we've already kind of learned. Do you know what I mean? I did a life skills course, and that's where I learned a hell of a lot about myself. Let's put it that way. Now, for me, that course, I think everybody should do that course. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, because you learn so much about yourself and about how to live again and how to be a person again. And do you know what I mean? All the stuff that you lost through using and, you know, through your lived experiences, you know.
I think this is where services need to combine to kind of look at, you know, how do we approach, you know, different scenarios for a better term, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Well said, but well said.
How do we get really, it's the services, you know, combined together to kind of say, okay, these are the needs that individuals require, or you know.
And I do think that there's a better understanding with everything than what there was years ago.
Yeah.
A massive different understanding to what there was years ago. Do you know what I mean? And that's all through the research that Hot Knots have done. I know I keep saying, but it's true. There was nothing like it until they come about. They tell you to stop drinking before they could deal with your mental health. So, but you need to get your mental health dealt with to stop you drinking. So how could you? Do you know what I'm saying? So how could you do that? You can't. Well said, mate. Well, it's the hamster wheel, isn't it? But not the hamster wheel of homelessness. It's just the hamster wheel of, do you know what I mean? The mental health and the drug side of things. You know, it's all just a hamster wheel, isn't it? At the end of the day.
True.
Well, yeah, 'cause then that leads to criminal.
Yeah. But then we can't get it dealt with because they're saying, well, we can't deal with mental health until you pack up using. But you can't pack up using because your mental health makes you use. So, how do you know what I mean? So you're just in a catch-22 situation and you don't know where to go.
What I've also found is like our services kind of operate because each service, and I've been involved with a number of different services myself. I found each one of them operates slightly different from the other. I don't know how anybody else feels about it. Anyway, I'm looking
Yeah,
at you, Darren.
well, I almost won't say if you've got a criminal record.
Right.
Well, that's really isn't it? At the end of the day,
That's
like,
half the thing.
yeah,
Culture.
you need to get help, so it shouldn't matter what background you've got.
Are you saying that, like, if you've got a kind of convicted criminal record, that some services will be a little bit more? Look, what's the word I'm looking for?
Obviously.
They're not. They'll be a little bit
Risk
more.
averse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The risk for the.
Well, look, at the end of the day, yeah, like Andy just said that, they wouldn't take him because he had a criminal record. Now, you know what I mean? Your mental health and your drug use has probably caused that criminal record. So, you know, so, you know what I'm saying? Like, for me, what do you do then, Doc?
I've learned a lot about people and what they really go through. At the moment, my daughter's she's got diagnosed mental health problem, and I don't think she's getting enough support.
That's interesting.
I used to be a carer, but she's in supported housing now, and I've asked her care coordinator that she needs a cleaner because she's not cleaning, and I'm still waiting. You know, little things like that make you so bloody angry.
Do you feel, Ursula, and I don't mean to be wrong when I say it, you feel like sometimes it is, and when you say it's not getting the support, it's because there's not enough individuals that are actually being trained how to deal with certain circumstances and you know, how people.
Social workers give her 15 hours paid support, and
Right. So it's not
she
enough.
gets took out twice a week for an hour. You know.
That's not enough. That's where it all changed. That's where it all became different. And then plus the research and everything that you've done through it all. Do you know what I mean? Like, mate, we would have never been in touch with other different times and stuff like that if you know what I mean, like with the NECG, do you know what I mean, the National Expert Citizen Group, we wouldn't have been, like for me, I think that's a fantastic thing because we can learn what they're doing in their time that might work in our time as well.
Oh, it's okay. I was just going to say you got support from somewhere that you didn't actually really expect to get that much support from, didn't you? 'Cause
Yeah,
you
my
had a
housing
really
office.
you had a
Did
really
you?
good.
My housing office has been like mental health work and everything.
Oh, you're joking? Oh, okay.
Like,
So they
if
must.
you want for him, I won't, yeah.
Okay, so that you know what? Because like you know that's you hear about people that don't want to talk to them sort of people. Do you know what I'm saying? So like they see this is where the co-production stuff comes into it. Like you know with the SMD meetings on a Friday, we have all these different people from all these different places come into it. So they're getting a better understanding on what's actually going off and what SMD means and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like I say before, it just used to be more like a passing the book on. Whereas now, do you know what I mean? It seems to be
I can
more.
ring him at 2 o'clock in the morning and answer his phone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, mate. Do you know what I mean, though? And that's what I mean.
That's an interesting thing about people who kind of take ownership of supporting people, versus people who kind of don't want to do that.
Yeah. Just
I'm sure everyone's here has had a worker at some point who didn't necessarily. Did you feel they weren't kind of pulling their weight effectively? Whereas if you speak to somebody who's good at their job, like your housing officer, Andy, then all of a sudden it's not just the support they're giving you; it's the safety they make you feel.
Get breakfast on this morning.
I mentioned a very good point that sometimes we can almost, have the best intent. We've got a support, but sometimes I think you just mentioned very good that we kind of hold back within ourselves as well, and don't.
In case it's our fault.
Do
Do you know what I mean? That's how I feel.
You always blame yourself, or I don't know. Sorry.
Right, stop your drinking, sort your mental health out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes accepting support is is one of the hardest parts of the process.
Because doing my sport work, my washing machine is working and it's coming up through a sink and I'll be alright. But you get in these things in your head and you think, no, it won't be alright, just tell me to make it better. Did that sound stupid?
No, these things don't fix themselves. And if you're relying on someone for support and they act like something isn't important when it matters to you, then
that's not the right support.
No.
That's not the support that you need.
This is where I kind of been involved with Opportunity Nottingham. We did a thing where we did called the Facts of Life, basically about yourself, the facts about me. Now, me personally, I found that a bit helpful because I did do it with one of my mental support workers at the time. I'm not 100% whether that is sure that I did give my consent for that information to be passed on through various services that I was involved in using at the time. And I did find that a great help because unfortunately, my work at the time, went on to do various sort of things, which it was a little bit of a knockback for me. But what catered me out was the fact that I wasn't having to sit there thinking, okay, with my new worker or whoever else I was going to engage with, that I'd have to be explaining this whole damn thing again and getting so frustrated with myself because it just felt like it was going around in circles.
Well, that's often a problem, isn't it? When if you speak to a new person, you speak to a new service and all that, they want you to tell them all the bad things that are going on for you.
And you're reliving it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And that's traumatic, isn't it?
Very. Mate, look, you can put people back in the place that they don't want to be because they're having to retell that story. Do you know what I mean? You should be able to go to a place, talk to a person, they say to you, right, is it alright if I share your information with this person, that person, because I think that that's who should, and then they will pass your story on to them.
Here's a question for you. Have you had an experience of kind of where you've stepped away from a service and you've not felt it was a good ending, and how did you cope with that?
I can only say my ending with Opportunity Nottingham, my PDC day was just, it was done right, it was done, I knew in time, I knew well in advance when it was coming, do you know what I mean, and I got took for a nice meal, and Yeah, do you know, so...
And Julian, you
What about
said,
any other services though?
you said that you've had a similar positive experience with Opportunity Nottingham.
Yeah, similar to me actually. I think we might have even had the same personal development officer, I think. But yeah, I knew one in advance. Did some art therapy, I think, last year before, and that ended well as well. I knew in about, I think it was about 4 to 8 weeks that I knew it was ending. 4 weeks, I think. But yeah, with Nicola as well.
Yeah.
Could have gone for a meal, we went for a coffee. And
Yeah,
it's just
I work up.
quite naturally, but yeah.
And I suppose the question is, with services before Opportunity Nottingham, was it a similar positive?
I just can't remember, to tell you the truth, it was all just like, you know, it just stops, like, done, yeah. It wasn't anything positive, do you know what I mean? But it was just done, and you didn't get told, you weren't told in advance or like that, do you know what I mean? It was just done, that was, do you know what I mean? That was the end of it.
Myself personally,
You'd come off your script or something, that's the end of it.
myself personally, I became aware of opportunity not to take liberty. I'll be in contact with her. Sorry about that. What I was trying to say is, I became aware of Opportunity Nottingham due to my lifestyle of almost being in and out of custody. Okay, and having no accommodation, just getting pure frustrated. I don't know about it, you know. I'm talking from a. This is how I became aware of opportunity, because my kind of lifestyle and whatever, I was not secular, it was in and out of custody, to the point where the courts were actually getting tired of me being in court constantly when there was no need for, you know, to be sending me to prison. And a lot of that frustration came down to the very fact that I had no suitable accommodation or no way to, you know, that I could actually now, the whole situation's a lot more better than what it is. It's looking a lot more positive, you know. I've recently got it myself, where through the services I'm a bit more independent living, okay, so all those things have added. I think that's the point I was trying to make, that because of Opportunity Nottingham and through, you know, my kind of lifestyles and whatever, the substance misuse and this, that, the other, just and in truth, I didn't see any way out of this circle. Now, it took for me to sit down with my kind of mental support work and really express it. And in truth, I realised that they were doing, you know, their ultimate best to go away and see what they could do on my behalf to make the situation, to kind of get me out of that lifestyle without me feeling suffocated or whatever, because it was a point of realisation as well that, hey, there are people out there who can help and support, you know. It's just the fact that I've become a little bit entangled in that I was finding it hard to kind of, you know, sit down like we mentioned before, to be able to talk. As a good friend said, sometimes we lock off and kind of withhold back.
But it becomes a lifestyle, doesn't it? You get into the habit of not sharing how you are and who you are with people, because you've got to protect yourself.
Yes, yeah. And I think some of it comes down as well to the individual, you know, their lifestyle. Sometimes they feel like, oh, there's no help out there, you know, or they don't even know which direction to go. You know, who do I call at the end of it? It's not like you can pick up the phone and call the Samaritans. You know, if you can appreciate what I think I've said enough on that. I don't know if anybody can pick up on that. I don't know how you like, because I don't know you, I've seen you. I don't know how you find things yourself.
Oh, no, listen to it. It's like my own experience is like, I had a period, well, I've had a few periods of being on the streets and that, but the main one that kind of set me downhill was I was homeless, split up with a missus and everything, lost my house and everything. But I've got a dog, I've got a puppy, yeah, and for me, mental health and everything, what I was going through, my depression and suicidal thoughts and everything, that dog kept me alive, yeah, on the streets, you know what I mean? We looked after each other, it kept me it gave me that bit of responsibility that I needed to, to look after him. It was making me look after myself. Yeah. But then probation, this is what I mean. The people don't see what's going on around you. If they're trying to do something for your own good, they should be able to see that this dog had helped me big time. I mean, but for me to get off the streets or to get any help, I had to give my dog up. You know what I mean? And when I gave my dog up, it all went downhill. You know what I mean? Because I had all this time on my hands, like with the dogs. You know what I mean? It's like there's no fault. The probation, probably just.
I can appreciate that because to be honest, I got tired of probation telling me if you can carry on doing and carry on living the way you're going, you're going to end up with her, and it'll be longer, stretchy, and to the point that I was kind of getting to like, you're not understanding what's causing the issue and the problem, why I keep reoffending or maybe getting into those scenarios that I'm doing. Now, if you get me some, and it was like screaming at them, I need some help and some, this is what I'm saying, thankfully, along the steps, opportunity, it took a while for me to get introduced to because I had to go for it, but it felt like the probation was just hammering me to the point where I was almost feeling, I'm going to mess up anyway, you know what I mean? It's like, it just seemed weird at the time.
So this is kind of about services not appreciating you as a person, basically.
Yeah.
That you're part of their system, they're not working for you. And I guess when you feel like a number on a piece of paper, then it really
that's all I had in this world was that dog, and I would say that dog kept me alive, brought me back from death basically, and then I had to give him up, and like it broke my heart to give him up. Sent my mental health right down, and my drug using started again, drinking. It's like there's no thought, no concern in anything to do with my life or how it was. I had hit rock bottom, but couldn't to see that dog had actually kept me safe. But they made me give it up.
So,
you know what I mean? So
if you don't mind me asking, what was your experience of kind of coming out of that? Who was it you spoke to? Was it Opportunity Nottingham?
I went down. Things went from bad to worse. It's like when you hit rock bottom, the way I see it is, there ain't no bottom, you just keep falling, you keep going, falling, you know what I mean? You don't, because when you hit the bottom, you're dead, you know what I mean? But, and then I was put into shared accommodation where I was attacked, with with a machete off somewhere, because they got mental health issues and that, and there was just, the environment I was put into was not thought about one little bit, you know what I mean? Even though I was a very vulnerable person as well.
Have things improved for you since?
Oh yeah.
And so how was it you went from where you were to where you are now?
Simple. What was it? I've always been lucky, and I had a good. At some point, I've had a good support worker who's put me in the right directions. You know what I mean? But it's taken from when I've given my dog up, it's taken nearly 4 years. Yeah.
I think as well, so I don't mean to be rude when I say that, I think as well, like some of it's about your self-confidence, your self-esteem building and being able to interact with, I've said it before, the services or individuals you can relate to, because a lot of us will lose our kind of self-esteem and whatever, because of how we used to the lifestyles or whatever that we would currently used to, or maybe even, and it takes a lot to kind of pull away from those initial, almost I'll call them borders or whatever that tend to hold you back. But when you find kind of a service or somebody that feels is kind of beneficial to you, almost, to me personally, it kind of uplifts my spirit and it holds me out that little bit of and I'm not saying it's kind of an overnight cure. It's not by any means. What I'm trying to say is, with the help and the support and everything, and the encouragement, training, I love doing a bit of volunteer work and getting involved in it, and there's been all these little things that have happened that's kind of opened up my horizon to better prospects, so to speak.
So, what have you actually, Julian, what work have you done with the experts as an expert?
Done loads of things. Lots of webinars online, Zoom meetings.
So is that training other people, or is that putting your experience across to staff? Or
A bit of both really, because you're in a room with other people with lived experience and staff. So there's been a lot of learning opportunities.
Also done the interview for the Changing Futures project.
Yeah, did
director.
the interview for that, interview panel for that.
So you interviewed the person who's going to be the director of the new service?
Yeah, probably Lowen got the job.
Okay.
So yeah, and I think that was learning and also feeling very much part of the team, co-production we talked about, rather than collaboration. It's more co-produced, and it's relevant because if we're talking about lived experience, I often think to myself, well, where does that lived experience go? Is it going to be converted into knowledge? Who's going to use that? Is it going to be opportunity of a job, possibly? Because it's certainly given me a lot more purpose and meaning to things.
Well, am I right in thinking you've just done some training yourself?
Yeah, Lee and I have just done the mentoring programme.
Peer mentoring?
Peer mentoring, yeah. So that went well, harder than I thought, but yeah.
Peer research as well.
Done peer research, yeah, so it's given me a lot of opportunity.
The National, NECG.
NECG doing that as well, yeah, National Expert Citizens Board. So yeah, and I think it's been mentioned, it's given a lot of opportunity. Opportunity Nottingham, isn't it?